Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm Professor John Ahr and I'm your instructor. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make a mechanism or a clasp. Now, I'm going to make this out of wire, and let me tell you, this clasp is so pretty that you'll probably want to use it as an enhancement on many of your wire jewelry pieces. In fact, it could become a linkage in and of itself to make a bracelet or a necklace, or it could become a charm on a bracelet, or maybe even a drop on a pair of earrings. Now, what I'm referring to is this, a swan clasp. Now, I showed this bracelet that it's attached to in a previous video entitled Capturing a Bead in a Wire Cage, where I showed you using these elements how to assemble this bracelet from S-hooks, a bead wrapped in a wire cage, and this ordinary looking wire wrapped clasp. So we're going to upgrade to the swan clasp today. Now the swan hook is a variation on the S hook, and if you look right here, you can see a variety of variations on the S hook. Now these variations were done by either changing the gauge of the wire, the size of the hook, how hard it was forged, or whether or not embellishments were added to the ends of the hook. So just remember that you can make variations, because I'm just going to show you the basic swan clasp in this video. Here's what you're going to need to make your swan clasp. You're going to need some well-annealed wire. Now I'm using a 14 gauge round copper wire, and I have about 6 inches of length. I have a half round file, diagonal cutters, chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, a bench block, a Goldsmiths hammer, and I have 2 different specialty pliers. I have forming pliers and half round pliers. Before you start working with your wire, be sure to put on your eye protection, because you don't want to poke yourself in the eye. Now, the first thing that you need to do is to pick up your wire, place the end on your bench block, and pound or forge the end of the wire into a paddle shape. Okay, there we go. So you can see it looks like a little paddle, and if it's a little bit off center, that's okay. You can possibly correct it with your pliers, like so. Or if you need be, you can even take your file and round it better. This will work just fine. Next, what I want to do is I want to curl this paddle to create what looks like an architectural volute, or just a small spiral. So I'm going to put the end of the wire into my pliers and just start to make a curve. And you want to go all the way around so that the wire touches itself, just like that. Next, what I want to do is I want to create an open spiral form. And what I'm going to do to create that is I put my pliers back in, and I'm holding my wire tightly at this end, and then I just loosely start to move the wire around that curve. Now you can see how when I started at the center like that, then I can move out a little bit, and I just can continue to make a gentle spiral curve all the way around. Now if you need to make a correction, you could use your half round pliers to open up the curve and change the size of the curve. All right, so let's just keep this going around. I can come out to the outside. Now, I've got a very simple open spiral initiated, and if we compare it to what we have down here, you can see that I essentially have the base of the body started for this swan clasp. All right, so let's pick this up. Let me tighten this back up just a bit. I want to bring that more into the center. All right, so we know that we have the basic structure for the body of the swan clasp. Now what I want to do is I want to give it that little divot at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend the wire out just a touch, move the pliers down, and then come back up. And I want to keep it a little bit more rounded. Now if I want to make the body a little tighter, all I need to do is just move the initial spiral down just a touch. So this is the body, the drop, and now we're coming up to the neck. Now I want the neck to just move back. So I'll hold the wire here and I'll just push the wire back. Now it's okay if you go under or over a little bit, but you want to move this section back out. And this is a good point where you may want to forge this small area at the base. So we'll just forge this just a bit to lock in that curve. All right, now I can continue up. Now the neck should just lean back a little bit. And you can use pliers to get this just right. So what I'll pick up are my half round pliers. And remember, let the pliers do most of the work. Just if you position correctly, you should be able to get a very, very nice bend back. You want almost like an arched neck of the swan. And you do want this contact right here because this is going to keep that area closed to hold something within the clasp. All right, so now we're at a point where we want to begin to turn the neck over. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my round nose pliers and I'm just going to start to make a bend. And I just want to see a nice area that starts to look like the back of the head. Now, if you want to repeat these same curvatures over and over again, it's a good idea to use forming pliers, because with forming pliers, if you know when you reach a certain point that you want a certain curvature, you can just insert the right pair of pliers and just bend over it. So right here, I know that I'm getting a very good curvature for the back of the head from the neck. All right, so what I want to do is I want to find an area here where I can finish the clasp. And I'm going to say that I want to cut the wire about this far. So let me take this out. Give it a cut. Okay, now be sure to take off any sharp points that you might have from cutting with your diagonal cutters. Remember, you don't want anything to snag on clothing or to puncture skin. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open this up again. And I'll place the end of it onto my bench block. And I'm just going to paddle it like I did in the very first step. You notice that forging doesn't happen with hitting really hard. It's just repeated wrapping at a pressure that gets the job done. All right, so now I have this paddled end sticking out from the top of the head. What I want to do is I want to place my pliers on the end of this wire piece and repeat that initial curve that I created when I started the body. So I'll come back and curve the wire onto itself. Now what I can do is I can drop the pliers through the hole, brace them against the curve that I made at the top, and come down to basically close the head that creates the clasp. Now, if you want to, you could do additional forging on this piece as well. You could lock the curve here by doing additional forging, and you can actually lock the curve of the head. So why don't we do a little bit of that and see what it looks like. So let's start with the back of the head. I'll lock this curve. Now you can see when you forge, it opens up just slightly. If you want to close it again, it's still well annealed. I can push it into place. And if I want to maintain the structure of the body, I'll just give it a little pounding, little forging. There, all of our curves are locked in, and we now have a beautiful swan clasp. Now, like I said, this should be a great enhancement to closing your wire jewelry, and it's pretty enough that you could use it as an enhancement on a bracelet or maybe even turn it into a drop on a pair of earrings. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. That'll make you an Online Jewelry Academy subscriber, and you'll never miss another video. We regularly post to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for watching.